So obviously we're in a very strange and, slightly scary situation with this coronavirus. Not all the unknowns is the scariest part, not knowing what's going to go down over the next few months, how it's all going to pan out. And hopefully all of us are adhering to the social distancing and the self-quarantining. And if you're one of the people that aren't, that are going to these bars and these concerts, packing out these places like beaches, stop. Just stop. I think definitely pulling back and doing this is insanely important, as they've been telling us. I'm sure all of you are in the know just as much as me. I'm not here to preach or bring in new information. We're all adults, and I'm sure you're staying very well informed. But like they're saying, it's really important for all of us to do our part in making sure that hopefully the hospitals don't get overrun and that we're not bringing it to people like the elderly or others with pre-existing conditions, which this is a lot more dangerous for. Now, of course, I'm not talking to those of you who don't have a choice. You can't stay home. You have to go out for this reason or that, including those of you that are helping keep stores open, people in the medical field. For those, we all owe you a huge debt of gratitude. Thank you 1,000 times over. But for the rest of us that can stay home, we absolutely should. And in doing that, we have nothing to do. So Josh and I thought, why not make an episode for our filmmaker friends of ideas of things that you can do with your time while stuck at home. So making the best use of that time, hopefully being productive and entertained. So the first one we're gonna start out with is education. With all this new time, you could start to shore up the things that you already know or dive into the things that you've been wanting to try but just haven't. Say you're a cinematographer and you've always wanted to get your head around visual effects. Or in fact, if you're a director, a producer, really a cinematographer too, you really should want to get your head around all these different aspects so you can work with them better. So knowing something like visual effects, at least the bare minimum, is really going to help you when you're on set and shooting and having to pull off some visual effects. I have had friends that had to call me during production for some pretty basic visual effects stuff just because they've never done it before, because they'd never had time to dive in. So now, with a little extra time on your hands, you could always go and get some free software like Hitfilm and start doing tutorials and just wrap your head around the process. What goes into developing a shot like that? You could shoot something on your iPhone and pull off these shots as you go. There's a few different bits of software, and we'll put that in the links below. Then there's editing as well. And again, for my producers, directors, and cinematographers and writers, you really should have a foundational knowledge of editing, how it works, what you can accomplish with it. It's very important. And again, Hitfilm is free software for you to start diving in with editing, but you can also get Davinci Resolve's free version and start there as well, which is really fantastic editing software. Then you have Creative Cloud, which you can get a subscription for free. Of course, that means you can use Photoshop and After Effects and Premiere Pro, all stuff that we have tons of tutorials about on our channel, including our new Tuesday tutorials. We have 2 After Effects tutorials on there, so you can really dive in and start wrapping your head around those concepts that you can take to your work later. And if you already know editing and you're a cinematographer or director, you can always just cut yourself a new reel, so that's useful too. But then if you want to dive into color grading, Davinci Resolve's free version is really great for that. So you're learning how to grade on industry standard software for free. So you're not having to shell anything out to get this knowledge under your brain. And I found it really useful knowing the fundamentals of how to grade my own stuff, how to use power windows, tracking, all those things. Even though I'm not a colorist, I don't like grading my own work because that's just not what I do. Having that base knowledge really helps with talking to your colorist and getting the things out of it that you really want. But of course, there's also just a ton of things like Masterclass and MZED and other pay-for education places that really are good value and pretty cheap overall, but there's a ton of free stuff online as well, which we'll put links to all of that below because there's just way too much to dive into all at once. So we'll put links to everything. It'll be a massive notes section with links to pretty much everything we're talking about in this episode. Then there's apps that you can try out, most not free, but all pretty cheap, like Filmic Pro. If you are shooting stuff around your house on your phone, this would be the way to do it. This app really does open up the functionality of your phone to shoot as high quality as possible with all the manual functions functions as well. So you really could be working on ideas and scenes within your house just with this app. Also Previs Pro, which is a new and very cool storyboarding app that I've been toying around with. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more on the show eventually. Right now I've just been messing around, but stuff like this is really great to sort of hash out ideas. Maybe not even for a project you're actually working on, but just maybe some ideas that you've had where you can start getting them out of your brain and onto some physical medium to take a look at. I've always thought that there's a lot of educational value in doing things like that. But speaking of storyboarding, there is Cine Tracer, which I have gushed all over several times on the show. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. Just to try different shots, different lighting ideas, how to get different moods. You really can dial in a style and a tone inside of this software so well. It is a little bit on the pricey side, but in my opinion, totally worth it. So check that out as well. Then again, if you're shooting things on your phone and you only have your phone to edit on, we did do a whole episode reviewing some editing software for your mobile device that is actually really solid. I was very surprised at how intuitive and how much you could do with this software right on your phone. So definitely check that out as well. We have some more app suggestions also, but we'll put those in the links for you to check out too. Then sticking with education, one of my favorite things to go to for that with understanding the process of filmmaking or director's commentaries. Those are my video essays, and some of my favorites come from Ridley Scott, like his director commentary for Alien, or pretty much every director commentary that he has done. Then there's Rian Johnson's commentaries for both Looper and Knives Out. Then there's Christopher McQuaire and Tom Cruise's commentary for Mission Impossible Fallout. Christopher McQuaire is just, everything out of that guy's mouth is gold. If you don't follow him on Twitter, do that and just hunt down every podcast and interview he's ever been in, and you're welcome. And there's a lot of them that you can find online, like on YouTube, just by searching for it. You can find a ton of directors' commentaries on there, like John Carpenter and Kurt Russell's commentary for The Thing, which is just a really entertaining commentary to check out, and Martin Scorsese's commentary for Taxi Driver. And we'll put links to all of that below as well. Then you have special features. A lot of the behind the scenes can really open up your ideas for how to construct different things. Some are better than others, but Rian Johnson usually has really good special features. Like for instance, for Knives Out, there's over an hour-long, basically documentary on the making of the film. And like everything else, we'll add more to the notes below. Then there are a ton of really great podcasts out there, but some of my favorites are Script Notes, the Ride Along podcast with David Chen and C. Robert Cargill, the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith, the Movie Crypt, The Moment with Brian Kopelman, the Indy Mogul podcast, the Empire Film podcast, the Director's Cut, which is the DGA's podcast, and of course, you know, there's our podcast, so thanks. Then, of course, there are films, movies to watch, and to help you add to your list of things that you should watch, Josh and I have both made lists on our Letterboxd accounts, which if you're not on Letterboxd, you absolutely should be. There's a free version of the app. It's just a movie lover's social app. It is fantastic. But we've both made a list of 200 films that every filmmaker must watch. My 200 films start from the silent era with The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu, all the way to more modern films like Parasite and The Lighthouse. But they're all just 200 films that I think every filmmaker should see at some point in their life. But I also made a whole list on some of my favorite documentaries about filmmaking, like for instance, The Heart of Darkness, which is a whole documentary on the making of Apocalypse Now. It is a really incredible look at what went into making that film and all the insanity behind it. A lot of things to learn from that you could do, and a lot of things to learn from that you absolutely shouldn't do. But then there are other great documentaries on the making of other films, filmmakers, cinematography, editing, and so on. So definitely check that out as well. But I also have some of my favorite 90s action films, favorite 90s sci-fi films, and we'll probably keep making lists as we go. So if you find yourself at a point where you're wondering what you should watch and would like some suggestions, just check out our Letterboxd list. We got a ton of stuff for you there, and we'll keep adding to it. Then something to keep in mind is I just saw that our friends at Frame.io are making 2 gigs free for the next 90 days. So if you are working from home and in post-production, that is definitely an option for you. Of course, you can find a link to that below as well. And we also wanted to give you guys a gift. So we put together a free pack, which is a collection of a bunch of our different things, like some of our LUTs, some of our sound effects, some music, some of our VFX assets, and we're calling it our quarantine pack. So you can download that for free to try out all that stuff. If you want to work on different scenes, or if you want to dive into some visual effects, you can grab that and toy with all them goodies for free as well. And those are completely royalty free, so you can use them forever, however you would like. But that's it. Hopefully this is helpful. I think this is definitely a time where we should all come together, stick together, be there for one another. We'll be on Twitter as much as possible. If you ever need someone to chat with, we'll be on social media as much as we can through all of this. I think, you know, things like this is something that should bring us together, and most certainly should bring the Film Riot community together. It's all going to be okay. It's scary right now, but you know, things are going to get better. But in the meantime, we just need to be smart. Do the social distancing, do the self-quarantining, use that time to educate yourself. And then once all of this passes, we figure it out from there. So let's not let fear get to us. Again, I'm not trying to say I'm somebody who has all the answers. I'm just saying, hopefully this stuff helps you, helps get your mind off of it. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, again, I'll be on social media as much as I possibly can and totally down to chat with any of you guys. So stay safe, stay smart, and until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.